The emergence of Bitcoin in 2008 through the publication of Satoshi Nakamoto's 9-page white paper marked a decisive inflection point in the history of both digital finance and distributed computing. Unlike prior experiments in electronic cash, which invariably depended on a trusted central authority, Bitcoin proposed a fully peer-to-peer, trust-minimized architecture for the transfer of value over the internet. The white paper's subtitle, A Peer-to-Peer Electronic Cash System, captures the directness of its ambition to enable online payments to be sent directly from one party to another without passing through a financial institution. The innovation lay not in the individual components, public key cryptography, peer-to-peer networking, proof-of-work hashing, but in the novel way these components were assembled into a coherent, self-sustaining monetary network. Nakamoto's system solved the long-standing double-spending problem in an open network without central coordination by chaining blocks of transactions in a way that made historical revisions computationally prohibitive. This was achieved through what is now called Nakamoto consensus, a combination of proof of work, the longest chain rule, and incentive alignment via block rewards and transaction fees. For technology executives, the white paper represents a blueprint for designing systems that must operate reliably in adversarial environments with no recourse to centralized arbitration. For academic researchers, it presents a fertile foundation for formal security proofs and game-theoretic modeling. For investors, it introduced an asset class with a mathematically enforced scarcity schedule, global liquidity, and anti-fragility properties. Bitcoin's inception must be contextualized against the backdrop of the 2008 global financial crisis, which both underscored the vulnerabilities of centralized monetary control and created cultural momentum for decentralized alternatives. The Bitcoin white paper begins with an abstract that defines its goal: a peer-to-peer form of electronic cash enabling direct transactions between parties without a trusted intermediary. Nakamoto identifies the inherent weakness in traditional online payment systems: the need for financial institutions to act as trusted third parties, which increases costs, limits small transactions, and creates reversibility that fraudsters can exploit. His proposed solution is a distributed timestamp server that produces a chronological chain of proof-of-work secure blocks, each referencing the hash of its predecessor, making the ledger's history computationally impractical to alter. To change a past record, an attacker must redo the proof of work for that block and all following blocks, which is infeasible if honest participants control the majority of computational power. The abstract introduces an incentive structure where miners receive newly created coins, known as the block reward, and transaction fees, ensuring network security while distributing currency. Digital signatures prove ownership and authorize transfers, while a peer-to-peer network validates and propagates transactions without central oversight. Importantly, the abstract notes that nodes can leave and rejoin the network at will, accepting the longest proof-of-work chain as proof of the correct history. This anticipates resilience against temporary disconnections and the ability to scale across a global network. For technology executives, the abstract illustrates how a concise design summary can guide robust architecture. For researchers, it signals fertile ground for study in consensus algorithms and cryptographic security. For investors, it positions Bitcoin as both a currency and a decentralized financial infrastructure with built-in incentives designed for long-term stability. In the white paper's second section, Nakamoto describes the timestamp server, the mechanism at the heart of Bitcoin's consensus process. Each timestamp block contains a hash of the previous block along with a set of new transactions, forming a chain that serves as an immutable historical record. The security comes from the requirement that every block's hash meets a specific difficulty target, achieved only through computationally expensive proof of work. Changing any block would alter its hash, forcing a recalculation of proof of work for it and all subsequent blocks, which becomes prohibitively costly when honest nodes control the majority of the network's processing power. The network operates in a peer-to-peer fashion, broadcasting transactions to all nodes. Miners collect these transactions into candidate blocks and compete to solve the proof-of-work puzzle. When a miner succeeds, the new block is propagated, and nodes accept it only if all transactions within are valid and unspent. The longest chain rule ensures consensus. The valid chain with the most accumulated proof of work is authoritative. This design also provides natural recovery for nodes that temporarily disconnect. Upon reconnection, they download the chain with the most work and resume from there. The timestamp server concept elegantly combines cryptographic hashing, computational work, and distributed networking to achieve trustless synchronization of a global ledger. For technology executives, it demonstrates how careful protocol rules and economic costs can replace centralized enforcement. For researchers, it presents a practical implementation of a Sybil-resistant consensus in an open environment. For investors, it reinforces the network's resilience, showing that attacks require not only technical capability, but also control over enormous computational resources, making Bitcoin's ledger among the most secure public records in existence. The proof-of-work mechanism, detailed in the Bitcoin white paper, is the foundational security model that underpins the entire network's integrity. Nakamoto adapts Adam Back's hashcash concept, requiring miners to find a value, nonce, which, when hashed with a block header, produces a hash below a defined target. This process is computationally intensive and probabilistic, meaning the chance of finding a valid block is proportional to the miner's share of the total network hash rate. Once a valid block is found, it is trivial for any node to verify the result, creating an asymmetry between the cost of producing valid work and the ease of verification. The system adjusts difficulty every 2016 blocks, approximately every 2 weeks, to maintain an average block time of 10 minutes regardless of changes in total network computing power. This dynamic adjustment ensures predictable issuance and security over time. An attacker seeking to alter past transactions would need to outpace the cumulative proof of work of the honest network, requiring control of more than half of the total computational power, commonly called the 51% attack. Even then, the economic and operational costs make such an attack impractical for sustained periods, especially as network hash rate grows. Proof of work also serves as a Sybil resistance mechanism, preventing a malicious actor from gaining disproportionate influence by creating multiple identities. For technology executives, proof of work illustrates how economic constraints can secure decentralized systems. For researchers, it offers a rich subject for analyzing game theory, mining incentives, and adversarial strategies. For investors, it provides confidence that altering the Bitcoin ledger is prohibitively expensive, reinforcing the asset's reputation as a secure, immutable store of value. Nakamoto's incentive model is a critical component of Bitcoin's sustainability, aligning the interests of independent participants toward honest behavior. Each miner who successfully produces a valid block is rewarded with newly minted Bitcoins, known as the block subsidy, plus the total transaction fees included in that block. This dual reward structure serves two purposes. It bootstraps network security in the early years when transaction volume is low, and it gradually transitions to a fee-driven model as block subsidies decrease over time. The subsidy has every 210,000 blocks, roughly every 4 years, creating a predictable issuance schedule that caps the total supply at 21 million Bitcoins. This fixed supply introduces digital scarcity, an attribute previously unattainable in purely digital assets without central control. The economic game theory is straightforward yet powerful. Miners are incentivized to follow the rules because attempting double spins or invalid blocks would result in rejection by the network, wasting computational effort and forfeiting rewards. As block rewards diminish, transaction fees are expected to take a larger role in compensating miners, ensuring continued security. This transition places long-term importance on block space demand, highlighting scalability and transaction utility as future determinants of miner revenue. For technology executives, the incentive structure offers a blueprint for designing self-sustaining decentralized systems where participants are rewarded for securing the network rather than undermining it. For researchers, It raises questions about fee market dynamics, miner strategies, and the optimal balance between subsidies and fees. For investors, the halving cycle has historically influenced market behavior, creating periods of supply shock that can impact price trends and long-term valuation narratives. Bitcoin's transaction model is based on the concept of unspent transaction outputs, UTXOs, a design choice that ensures simplicity, parallelizability, and determinism in validation. Each transaction consumes one or more existing UTXOs as inputs and creates new UTXOs as outputs, each locked to a recipient's public key through a script. A UTXO can only be spent in full, with any leftover value returned to the sender as change in a new output. This model contrasts with account-based systems, such as Ethereum, by eliminating the need to track balances. Instead, the ledger state is simply the set of all current unspent outputs. Validation requires verifying digital signatures against public keys, ensuring that the spender is authorized to use the referenced outputs. Bitcoin's scripting system, though intentionally limited in complexity for security and predictability, supports various locking conditions, including multi-signature schemes, time locks, and hash-based contracts. UTXOs can be combined or split as needed, and nodes independently verify each transaction without requiring global knowledge of an account history. This approach enhances scalability since validation tasks can be parallelized, and it aids privacy by enabling the creation of new addresses for each payment. For technology executives, the UTXO model demonstrates how modular data structures can simplify system design while maintaining strong security guarantees. For researchers, it invites analysis of script extensibility, smart contract capabilities, and privacy enhancements like CoinJoin or Taproot. For investors, understanding the UTXO model is crucial when managing wallets, as transaction fees and privacy depend on efficient input selection and output management. A Bitcoin block consists of two main parts, the block header and the list of transactions. The header contains metadata including the version number, hash of the previous block, Merkle root of the transactions, timestamp, difficulty target, and knots. The Merkle root is derived from a binary hash tree structure where each leaf node represents a transaction hash, and each non-leaf node is the hash of its two children. This design allows efficient verification of transaction inclusion without downloading the full block, a feature central to simplified payment verification, SPV. By providing a Merkle proof, a short series of hashes, nodes can prove to lightweight clients that a transaction is part of a block confirmed in the blockchain. This reduces bandwidth and storage requirements, enabling resource-constrained devices to interact with the network securely. The header's fixed size ensures consistent proof-of-work input, while the variable-length transaction list allows flexibility in block composition. Miners have discretion in selecting transactions from the mempool, typically prioritizing those with higher fees to maximize revenue. The block's linkage to its predecessor via the previous block hash ensures immutability of history. Altering any transaction changes the Merkle root, which alters the block header hash, invalidating all subsequent blocks. This chain of cryptographic dependencies is the foundation of Bitcoin's security model. For technology executives, block and Merkle design exemplifies how hierarchical data structures can support efficient verification at scale. For researchers, it presents optimization challenges for light clients, fraud proofs, and pruning. For investors, Merkle trees underpin the trust model for exchanges and custodial services, offering proof-of-reserve audits without revealing full transaction histories. Bitcoin's peer-to-peer network is designed to be robust against failures, censorship, and fragmentation. Nodes connect in an unstructured mesh topology, relaying transactions and blocks through a gossip protocol. Each full node independently validates incoming data against consensus rules before relaying it, ensuring that invalid transactions or blocks are quickly discarded and not propagated further. There are several node roles. Full nodes, which store the entire blockchain and enforce all rules. Mining nodes, which also attempt to create new blocks. And lightweight SPV clients, which rely on full nodes for transaction verification using block headers and Merkle proofs. The gossip mechanism prioritizes new information, propagating it quickly across the network, which reduces the likelihood of miners working on stale blocks and minimizes orphan rates. Peer discovery occurs through hard-coded seed nodes, DNS seeds, or manual configuration, after which nodes exchange address inventories to learn about others. The protocol is transport agnostic, allowing operation over TCP, Tor, or other mediums, enhancing censorship resistance. Network messages are structured and versioned, facilitating backward compatibility as the protocol evolves. Latency and bandwidth constraints influence block size policy, with conservative limits aimed at ensuring global propagation within seconds to maintain consensus. For technology executives, Bitcoin's network design is a model for decentralized, fault-tolerant communications in hostile environments. For researchers, it offers fertile ground for studying topology optimization, block relay improvements, and eclipse attack prevention. For investors, understanding network resilience underscores the robustness of transaction finality, as the distributed nature of node infrastructure makes coordinated disruption significantly more difficult. The difficulty adjustment mechanism is one of Bitcoin's most elegant features, ensuring predictable block production regardless of changes in network hashing power. Every 2016 blocks, or roughly every 2 weeks, all nodes recalculate the difficulty target based on the time taken to mine the previous period's blocks. If blocks were found faster than the 10-minute target, difficulty increases. If slower, difficulty decreases. This self-regulating process maintains a steady issuance rate and stabilizes the network's economic parameters. The adjustment is capped at a 4-fold change in either direction to prevent extreme swings due to temporary anomalies. This design not only ensures fairness among miners, but also contributes to security by making sustained attacks more costly. An attacker must maintain the majority of hashing power over time, not just momentarily. Historical data shows that difficulty has trended upward as mining hardware evolved from CPUs to GPUs, FPGAs, and modern ASICs, reflecting the arms race in computational efficiency. For technology executives, this showcases how adaptive algorithms can stabilize decentralized systems exposed to variable external conditions. For researchers, it offers an applied example of control theory in a distributed, trustless context. For investors, difficulty trends are a key metric, signaling the scale of resources securing the network and often correlating with miner confidence in Bitcoin's long-term viability. The mechanism also indirectly influences price by affecting miner supply behavior, as operational costs tied to difficulty impact the economics of selling mined coins. Simplified payment verification, outlined in Section 8 of the Bitcoin white paper, enables users to verify transactions without downloading the full blockchain. SPV clients download only block headers, which are 80 bytes each, rather than the full transaction data, drastically reducing storage and bandwidth requirements. When verifying a payment, an SPV client requests a Merkle proof from a full node to confirm that a specific transaction is included in a block. The client also ensures that the block is part of the chain with the most accumulated proof of work. This model allows lightweight devices, such as mobile phones, to participate in the network while still having reasonable assurance of transaction validity. However, SPV is not immune to certain attacks, such as fraudulently constructed Merkle proofs from malicious peers. For this reason, SPV clients often connect to multiple full nodes for redundancy and cross-verification. The design strikes a balance between trust minimization and resource constraints, offering a practical path for global scalability without forcing all participants to operate full nodes. For technology executives, SPV highlights how layered participation can extend the usability of a decentralized system. For researchers, it opens avenues for studying compact proofs and improved security guarantees in lightweight clients. For investors, SBV ensures that everyday users can interact with Bitcoin securely without specialized infrastructure, supporting wider adoption and strengthening the network's value proposition. Bitcoin's privacy model, as outlined in the white paper, favors pseudonymity over full anonymity, balancing transparency for validation with protection of user identities. All transactions are permanently recorded on the blockchain, but they reference only public keys, not personal information. Nakamoto recommends generating a new key pair for each transaction to avoid address reuse, thereby limiting linkability between payments. The UTXO model supports this by making it easy to create fresh outputs for each recipient. However, transaction graph analysis can still reveal patterns, especially when addresses are reused, outputs are combined, or when users transact with regulated exchanges requiring identity verification. This inherent traceability allows forensic analytics to cluster addresses likely belonging to the same entity, reducing privacy over time. The open ledger's transparency is a double-edged sword. It enables public auditability and trust in the system's integrity, yet exposes financial flows to observation by anyone, including adversaries. In response, privacy-enhancing techniques have emerged, such as CoinJoin, which aggregates multiple user transactions into a single combined transaction, and PayJoin, which obfuscates sender and recipient relationships. Taproot further improves privacy by making complex spending conditions indistinguishable from simple ones when executed in their key path form. For technology executives, Bitcoin's model highlights the challenge of protecting sensitive data in transparent systems without compromising security. For researchers, it provides fertile ground for developing privacy protocols that remain compatible with existing consensus rules. For investors, understanding the limitations of Bitcoin's native privacy is crucial for operational security, as large transfers or treasury moves can be publicly visible and potentially market-moving. Bitcoin's security framework relies on the critical assumption that honest miners control the majority of the network's total computational power, or hash rate. This majority-honest premise ensures that the longest valid chain, representing the most accumulated proof of work, will be the authoritative ledger. An attacker with less than 50% of the hash rate can attempt to reorganize the blockchain, but their probability of catching up diminishes exponentially with each block added after the target transaction. This makes double-spending attacks highly impractical when sufficient confirmations are required. Other threats exist, including eclipse attacks, where an adversary monopolizes a node's peer connections to control its view of the blockchain, and denial-of-service attacks, aimed at overwhelming nodes or miners with excessive traffic. Bitcoin's unstructured peer-to-peer topology, combined with independent block validation by all nodes, reduces single points of failure, but it cannot fully eliminate risks from network partitioning or mining centralization. The security model also assumes that miners behave rationally, valuing long-term rewards over short-term malicious gains, as invalid blocks yield no revenue and damage network trust. For technology executives, this illustrates the necessity of designing economic incentives to align participant behavior with system goals. For researchers, Bitcoin's assumptions serve as a foundation for formal analysis of consensus safety margins under varying hash rate distributions. For investors, understanding these threat models highlights why decentralization of mining power, global node distribution, and increasing difficulty are essential for preserving Bitcoin's immutability, reliability, and reputation as a secure store of value. Bitcoin's monetary policy is hard-coded, predictable, and immune to human discretion, making it unique among both digital and traditional currencies. The protocol reduces the block subsidy, the number of Bitcoins awarded to miners for adding a block, by 50% every 210,000 blocks, approximately every 4 years. This event, known as the halving, continues until the maximum supply of 21 million Bitcoins is reached, estimated around the year 2140. By design, the issuance schedule introduces digital scarcity, a feature previously impossible without central control. As the subsidy diminishes, Transaction fees are intended to become the primary incentive for miners, ensuring ongoing network security. Historically, each halving has drawn increased public and media attention, often influencing market sentiment and contributing to significant price volatility. Whether due to reduced supply entering the market or speculative behavior, these events are closely watched by traders, long-term holders, and analysts. For technology executives, the halving cycle demonstrates how a system can enforce monetary discipline through code, avoiding policy shifts that might arise from political or economic pressures. For researchers, it presents a natural experiment in fixed supply economics, offering data to study scarcity's effects on asset valuation. For investors, understanding the halving is essential for timing strategies, assessing mining profitability, and anticipating changes in the balance between block rewards and transaction fees. The transparent, immutable issuance schedule strengthens Bitcoin's narrative as digital gold, appealing to those seeking protection against inflationary monetary regimes. Bitcoin's architecture differs fundamentally from traditional payment systems such as credit cards, bank transfers, and centralized digital wallets. Conventional systems rely on trusted intermediaries, banks, payment processors, or clearinghouses to authorize transactions, maintain account balances, and resolve disputes. This centralization enables fast reversals and fraud protection, but also introduces counterparty risk, operational censorship, and single points of failure. Fees in these systems often reflect both operational costs and intermediary profit margins, with cross-border payments being notably expensive and slow. Bitcoin, in contrast, operates on a decentralized peer-to-peer network, where every full node independently verifies transactions against consensus rules without relying on any central authority. Settlement occurs directly on the blockchain, achieving finality after a certain number of confirmations, with no capacity for arbitrary reversals. This model reduces trust requirements but shifts responsibility to users for securing private keys and avoiding irreversible errors. Moreover, Bitcoin's fees are determined by block space demand rather than transaction size or distance, making cross-border transfers as efficient as local ones. For technology executives, this contrast highlights how decentralization can lower systemic risk while changing the user responsibility model. For researchers, it offers a living case study in the trade-offs between centralized control and trustless operation. For investors, understanding these differences clarifies why Bitcoin appeals as both a payment rail in certain contexts and as a settlement network, especially in jurisdictions with unstable banking infrastructure or capital controls, where its censorship resistance provides strategic value beyond cost efficiency. Bitcoin's base layer prioritizes decentralization and security, which inherently limits throughput to roughly 7 transactions per second given its block size and interval parameters. This conservative design minimizes orphan rates and ensures global verifiability, but it also creates scalability constraints compared to centralized payment networks capable of thousands of transactions per second. To address this, the ecosystem has developed Layer 2 solutions, most notably the Lightning Network. Lightning operates through bidirectional payment channels, where parties transact off-chain and only settle final states on the blockchain, significantly increasing transaction capacity while reducing fees and confirmation delays. These channels rely on hash time lock contracts, HDLCs, to ensure atomic, trustless payments across multi-hop routes. Other scaling methods include sidechains, such as liquid, and batching techniques, where multiple transactions are combined into one on-chain output. While Layer 2 solutions enhance usability for high-frequency or microtransactions, they require liquidity management, routing optimization, and robust watchtower services to monitor for potential channel breaches. For technology executives, this layered approach offers a blueprint for scaling secure systems without compromising the base protocol's integrity. For researchers, it presents opportunities to study routing algorithms, channel economics, and security trade-offs in partially off-chain architectures. For investors, successful Layer 2 adoption can expand Bitcoin's utility beyond a store of value, enabling competitive payment experiences while preserving the scarcity and trustworthiness of the base asset. Bitcoin's governance model is decentralized, informal, and consensus-driven, relying on community discussion, open-source development, and voluntary adoption of changes. There is no central authority or formal voting system. Instead, proposed modifications to the protocol are presented as Bitcoin Improvement Proposals, BIPs. These are debated publicly by developers, miners, businesses, and node operators, with adoption occurring only when a supermajority of economic participants voluntarily upgrade their software. This process is intentionally slow, prioritizing stability and security over rapid innovation. High-profile examples, such as the activation of segregated witness, SegWit, in 2017, illustrate how consensus can be achieved through a combination of technical merit, community outreach, and signaling by miners and nodes. Disagreements can lead to hard forks, as seen with Bitcoin Cash, where differing visions of scalability and block size limits created separate chains. For technology executives, Bitcoin's governance highlights the complexities of evolving critical infrastructure without centralized control. For researchers, it provides a real-world laboratory for studying decentralized decision-making, coordination problems, and incentive alignment. For investors, understanding governance is crucial for evaluating upgrade risks, compatibility, and the potential for contentious splits, all of which can impact network stability and asset value. Bitcoin's cautious, consensus-heavy governance is a defining feature, contributing to its perception as a dependable, long-term protocol rather than an experimental or mutable system. Bitcoin mining has evolved from a niche activity into a global industry, with specialized hardware and complex economic considerations. In the early years, mining could be done using standard CPUs, but as network difficulty rose, GPUs became the norm due to their superior parallel processing capabilities. This was followed by the adoption of FPGAs and, eventually, the development of ASICs, application-specific integrated circuits, engineered exclusively for SHA-256 hashing. ASICs provide massive efficiency gains in hash rate per watt, but their cost and manufacturing complexity have concentrated mining operations among well-capitalized entities. Mining farms now operate at industrial scale, often in regions with low-cost electricity and favorable regulations. The mining ecosystem also includes pool operators, who aggregate hash power from multiple participants to smooth earnings and reduce variance. While pooling increases predictability for miners, it raises centralization concerns if a small number of pools control significant portions of the network's hash rate. The competitive nature of mining drives continual hardware innovation and efficiency improvements, but it also imposes high capital and operational costs, influencing miner behavior and market dynamics. For technology executives, the mining sector demonstrates how specialized hardware markets emerge in response to protocol incentives. For researchers, it offers insights into the relationship between hardware centralization and network security. For investors, mining trends serve as indicators of network health and sentiment, with hash rate growth generally reflecting confidence in Bitcoin's long-term viability and security model. Bitcoin's proof-of-work consensus requires significant energy expenditure, sparking ongoing debates about its environmental impact. Mining operations consume electricity in proportion to the total network hash rate, as computational work is the mechanism securing the blockchain. Critics argue that this energy use is wasteful and contributes to carbon emissions, especially in regions dependent on fossil fuels. Proponents counter that energy expenditure is a feature, not a flaw, as it anchors the network security in real-world costs, making attacks prohibitively expensive. Additionally, miners often seek the cheapest available electricity, which can include stranded or renewable energy sources that would otherwise go unused. Some operations utilize hydropower during seasonal surpluses, capture flared natural gas, or integrate into renewable grids to monetize excess capacity. The environmental narrative has prompted research into the proportion of mining powered by renewables, with estimates varying widely. Policy responses range from outright bans in certain jurisdictions to incentives for sustainable mining practices. For technology executives, Bitcoin's energy profile demonstrates the trade-offs between security and efficiency in decentralized systems. For researchers, it provides a case study in the intersection of digital infrastructure, energy markets, and environmental policy. For investors, understanding the nuances of Bitcoin's energy consumption is essential, as public perception, regulatory pressures, and advancements in mining efficiency can influence both market sentiment and the long-term sustainability narrative surrounding the network. Satoshi Nakamoto remained active in Bitcoin's early development from 2008 until 2010, contributing code, engaging in technical discussions, and refining the protocol's foundations. Their final known message in April 2011 signaled a handover of responsibilities to other contributors, after which all public communication ceased. This deliberate withdrawal removed any central authority figure, reinforcing Bitcoin's decentralized ethos and reducing the risk of undue influence over its future. The mystery of Nakamoto's identity continues to intrigue researchers and the public, while their estimated 1 million untouched Bitcoins serve as a testament to long-term commitment and neutrality. The design principles they established, minimalism, resilience, and incentive-aligned security, remain embedded in the protocol, guiding its evolution. Over 15 years, Bitcoin has weathered market cycles, technical disputes, and regulatory pressures while adhering to the original vision set out in 2008. Its blend of cryptographic assurance, decentralized governance, and fixed monetary policy has transformed it into both a technological milestone and a socio-economic phenomenon. For technology executives, Bitcoin is a living blueprint for creating robust, adversarially resilient systems without centralized control. For researchers, it provides an unparalleled environment to study distributed consensus, economic incentives, and network security in production at global scale. For investors, it offers a scarce, highly liquid digital asset with unmatched historical resilience. While challenges persist, scalability limits, environmental debates, and evolving regulatory landscapes, Bitcoin's ossified base layer, combined with the growing adoption of Layer 2 solutions, positions it for continued relevance. Its success has inspired thousands of other blockchain initiatives, yet none have fully replicated its unique equilibrium of decentralization, security, and simplicity.